Opinions voiced on this show are not necessarily those of our full-time employers.
Hope that's obvious.
That is obvious, I think, and that is also why we don't necessarily mention the school name. Oh yes, octagons are the
Hexagons.
Hexagons are the bestagons. Sorry, ooh. You can edit out that mistake.
Maybe he won't.
Please do. Don't put more sides into my mouth than I meant to. I meant hexagons. There's only 6 of those.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 30.
Everyone has things that they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can just get one more person to join us on our hill to die on.
We have a special guest today.
Who's that?
You may have noticed that there was a new voice in the intro.
Hello, everyone.
This is Scott Ponzani. Scott is one of our coworkers and our friends. We like to joke with him all the time at school, so we figured what better place to joke on our podcast. He is the choir director, the handbell director, fine arts coordinator. He has many hats, keeps him very busy, but we still find time to joke around.
We do. Actually, we find time for me to come to your office and distract you.
Oh, yeah, yes.
That would assume that we did work.
Oh, you have a point there. But even if you are or you aren't, it's always fun. I always enjoy coming there. And your uncle, who you mentioned a few episodes ago, always says, "Is there help for you?" when I walk in.
And that's a real question. Is there help for any of us at this point?
I don't know. I hope it's coming soon if there is. You know, it's funny. When I first started listening to you guys, I didn't realize that you weren't in the same place. You know, my picture is you're in a radio studio or something set up to be like that, sitting across the table from each other, each with a boom mic in front of you, making this podcast. And so one of you said, "Oh, I brought this up and I'm looking at this and I'm reading." And it's like, well, wait a minute. How can they be seeing each other? Oh, they're not in the same room.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay, now here's a mental question for you. Who are you picturing on the left and who are you picturing on the right?
On my left and my right? Nate's on the left and Ryan's on my right.
Interesting that we all have. Now I want to hear. if you picture something different, email us because I want to hear. They did this on actually one of CGP Gray's podcasts. They talked about this because people have a mental picture when you listen to podcasts of who's on the left and who's on the right. I don't think I often have that picture when I listen to podcasts, but certain people have very strong pictures of who's on what's a side. And of course, there's no rhyme or reason why you pick one side or the other.
No,
but it's interesting. I don't think I picture that in podcasts, but I guess many people actually do, which is just an interesting quirk of people's, right?
Do you have the capability to pan?
I do. I don't.
You do have the capability, but you don't do it. Yeah.
Right. I have the capability, but I don't do it.
I always just envision that you are on my left, but the only reason for that is because usually I will oftentimes leave one of my ears exposed so that I can hear if somebody knocks on my door or something like that. And it's just always happens that I leave my right ear exposed usually.
Interesting. Nobody ever knocks on my door.
Well, it's actually something that I do when I'm at work, and I've just gotten to the point whenever I wear CAN headphones, I always do it, even without thinking about it, because that way, if somebody knocks on my door at work, I don't completely drown them out.
We have a topic to introduce to you, Scott.
Have you heard the good news about themes?
Yeah, let me back up a little bit, because Scott's been one of the productivity persons that I like to mull over. How do we become more productive, right? You had 43 folders back in the day, didn't you?
I still have them. In fact, I have 86 because I have your set.
Do you use them still as 43 folders? Wow.
Every day.
So 43 folders is a productivity scheme by Merlin Mann.
I'm sorry, every time I hear scheme, I always think of pyramid schemes.
No, it's not a pyramid scheme.
So it's not like that?
No.
It's not like, hey, if you invest in this and then get 4 of your friends to also invest in 43 folders?
No. It's nothing bad.
No, it's a way to delay things, right? It's a way to take them off your mind.
That's exactly right. It's a way to get them out of your mind so you can focus on the things that are pertinent at the time. And so you have a bill coming on the 15th. And so if it's, say, the 3rd and the bill arrives in the mail, it's due on the 18th or whatever. You just pop it in the 15th. And when you look in your tickler file, which is it's called, particular file of 43 folders. You get to the 15th, oh, I have to pay this bill today. And you didn't have to think about it in the intervening days. It's great. It's a great system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it works in conjunction with the systems we use now, actually, Ryan. So if you wanted the 43 folders I had, maybe Scott can give them to you. Or you can make a new set. But
actually, you know what I realized? I realized I have 129 folders.
Do you really?
How do you?
Because I made one for home and one for school, and then you gave me yours. So actually, that one's being unused at the moment. So Ryan, if you wanted to try it, you could.
What is this 43 folders nonsense?
Oh, yeah, we should explain. So, okay, there's a folder for each month of the year.
Okay.
12. And then there's a folder for each day of the month, 31, because you have to have that many because that's what the most months have.
Mm-hmm.
So 12 plus 31 is?
43.
You passed math. So you have 43 folders.
Just barely. Just barely past math.
So you have a month folder, and anything that needs to go into the next month folder, you just drop it. So right now I'm putting stuff into December's folder or January's folder. And those are the back end of the box that I have my folders in. The front end is the days. So tomorrow's the 23rd. And when I get up, at some point in my routine in the morning, I will look into that folder, the 23rd. And if there's anything in there that I need to attend to, I do it. Then I put that folder in the middle behind the 22nd. When I get to the 31st, I bring forward the next month. So I'll bring forward December's folder. And anything that's in there, I distribute through December as I need it.
Okay.
Then I start with 1 again. And every day I just look in that folder. And, you know, to be honest, most days, the day's folder is empty. But if there is something in there, then I just do it.
It makes sense. I would say that at least where I am at, I would not utilize that. Because I know that I would basically be 95% of my folders will be empty.
Right. It's a better system if you have a minimal amount of paper in your life.
And I have almost no paper in my life aside from bills. And bills, I will regularly, as soon as they come in, go to the convenience store and immediately pay them.
See, I don't even have those because my bills are all paid automatically out of my bank account. But I do have other things. And like I do my expense reports every month. And they show up 3 days before they're due. And I just do them that day or the next day. And what it saves me is a lot of clutter.
For me, most of that stuff is taken care of by my OmniFocus.
Right. Well, see, yeah, and if you don't have a lot of paper, that's great. But the things that you can't stick into OmniFocus by scanning or just making a new entry, you have to have the paper. That's what this system is for.
Okay. I get it.
So then we did 43 folders for a while. Then we also, I mean, you were around, Scott, when we did Kinkless GTD with Omni Outliner, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, OmniFocus came out. And I remember running it on my computer. And then when the iPhone came out, you could run it on your computer and then basically connect to the web server that OmniFocus was doing on your brand new iPhone 3G because you weren't allowed to have apps on your phone. My goodness.
Right.
That'd be horrible. And then, so I'd have OmniFocus running as a web app off my computer and I could connect to my OmniFocus database that way. And now we're up to OmniFocus 3. But anyway, we have good discussions on what are contexts and what are projects and things like that. We always have fun discussing things like that.
And how do you do this?
How do I arrange all my tasks that I have Ryan doing? I mean, you know, there's a mountain of them, so I have to arrange them somehow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You've got to know when to crack the whip on that guy.
Yeah, actually you do. Otherwise he'll just slack off.
And we're just waiting for OmniFocus's task sharing feature. We're just waiting for that to come down the pipe.
Is that a thing? Is that coming?
They keep teasing it.
I'm waiting for the day.
So anyway, so now themes. Yet another productivity hack for you, Scott.
Okay, talk to me.
This is an idea of themes that I heard largely through CGP Grey and Mike Hurley on Cortex. So the basic idea behind a theme is instead of necessarily a productivity tool, it's more of a self-reflection and guidance tool is how I would describe it.
Right. It could be overarching, over top of your OmniFocus and even 43 folders.
It's more situated for self-reflection is, I think, the closest thing I can
Right.
So themes are, instead of setting a resolution or something like that, they talk heavily about themes.
Or even a goal.
Or even a goal. Like, I want to lose X amount of weight. Instead of that, it's the idea of focusing on a theme. Something that you want to achieve, but it's all based around an idea. So you have an idea, some sort of word that resonates with you, and you then start thinking about, okay, how can I have a year where I achieve something closer to this idea that resonates with me? Some of the examples that they've used are things like a year of less, or a year of order, or of sophistication. And so it's just this idea of having a theme or a general goal that you are moving towards. And because it's a thing like that, it's less of, I'm going to lose X amount of weight. There is no actual fail state for this idea. It is just there in your mind to basically help you reflect on, okay, so how is this going? And it's more about moving in that direction. One of the ways that CGP Grey describes it is, if you ever come to a divergent path and you're thinking about, okay, I want this to be a year of reading, well, then maybe when you're sitting in line, you think about, oh, I want to be reading more. Well, then while you're in line, maybe you pull out that book. It's basically just that idea of that ever-present thought of the theme in your head that will guide you towards some goal.
So does this have any recommendations on how to keep that? I mean, let me ask it this way. How is it different than making a resolution? Other than there's no fail state, how do you remember to keep doing it?
So first of all, it is about having this theme, this idea that is basically there in your mind to have that point of reference of what you are aiming for. The reason why we actually decided to bring this up today was because the guys from Cortex actually have a brand of stuff that they make. One of the things they recently made in the past year was they actually made a journal that coincides with these themes.
Oh, but the themes that they picked?
No, it's an open-ended journal that you then use as a self-reflection tool based on whatever theme you want.
I see.
So if you look at the example page, for example, that was overly redundant. Here he has, it was a year of diversification, and then he had what it was that he was aiming towards, and some of the things that would basically help move him towards that year of diversification.
He came up with these before the year started or as the year started?
As he was developing his theme, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a nice and interesting thing about themes also, is they don't have to be yearly. In fact, one of the things CGP Grey recommends is that you make them quarterly.
Oh.
So that you can continue to keep them relevant to yourself. You continue to mold it. Like maybe you start with diversification, but that feeds off to some other direction, halfway through the year because something like a pandemic comes up. It's not something that stays fixed.
And the other idea behind it is, since it's based around a resonant word, the idea of how you define diversification might change over that year because you as a person have grown and changed over that year.
Sure. Interesting.
So they have different types of pages. They have the overall kind of idea, then they have the daily reflection pages, and then they actually have basically a check mark type page where you can talk about and just kind of reflect on these overarching maybe ideas of how you can potentially move towards them. How did you do today? How do you feel like you did today? This is Mike Hurley's journal, and he just took pictures of his. He likes doing either a 1, a 1/2, or a 0 on how he did towards this thing, whether it was health or engagement or his personal relationships or his marriage. How does he feel like he worked on and lived for today on those things? So again, it's all about like self-reflection. So I really like the idea of themes and using this as a self-reflection tool on how is my day going? How is my life going? How am I moving forward with my own personal goals, ideas, and plans? It helps me reflect. So this all being said, they came up with this journal and they've released it a couple of times and it's gotten sold out every single time, and I haven't gotten one until very recently. I finally received one.
Ah, so you just ordered it from their website? Or
I ordered it from their website, yeah.
Yeah.
They created them, they got sold out, then they made a new batch, those got sold out.
Like within a few days, both times.
Yes. And so this batch actually has thankfully lasted, and it's been up for like a month, and I have not seen them get sold out again yet. So either they have enough that they can keep selling them consistently, or because the main people who wanted it bought the first two and they haven't used up that journal yet, maybe they just haven't bought another one quite yet. So all this to say, I decided to buy one of these and start utilizing it early in the year. I want to say around Christmas time this past year. I was thinking about potential themes for this year, and then COVID.
Yeah, actually, I did look. The last time we talked about this was the podcast we recorded on March 14, which I think school had just closed.
It was right before.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks after school closed. We thought things were going to come back to normal after break.
Yeah, we were so optimistic. We were like, oh, this is going to only last a little bit of time. So I had this idea of a theme of, I don't even remember what my theme was.
Time period of movement.
Movement, that's right.
How's that going for you, Ryan? Sorry, just kidding.
Was it moving?
Yes.
This is why themes can adapt. This is exactly why themes can adapt.
So the idea behind the time period or the season of movement.
Ooh, I like season.
Yes, the season. I like the season too. Was the idea that talking about movement as in not only like exercise and getting more healthy, but also movement as in the idea of movement being change according to Greek philosophy.
Okay.
And so just breaking things up, having every day be a little bit more like thinking and being particular about doing new things, trying new things, and not basically getting myself stuck in a rut.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the things that were behind that idea. So, you know, not getting stuck in a rut and trying new things, going new places was a great thought to have right before we all got locked down.
Oh, too bad.
So this was a very interesting year for me on moving towards that theme.
Yeah.
So I recently got the journal, though, and I've been developing what I want my new theme to be for this period in my life. However long that lasts, whether that's a season, whether that's a year. But I've developed most of it, so I haven't quite got everything down, but I am leaning towards the idea of a season of intentionality.
Interesting.
Basically focusing on being intentional about my use of time, but also being intentional about... I am a person who finds it very easy to float through days, float through life, and just kind of go with the flow.
Uh-huh.
And that can be a great thing, but the other side of things can be, it can lead to a life that just, you get through a week and you go, how did I spend my week? What did I do?
Just kind of wandering, yeah.
And so I want to make sure that I am, rather than just wandering, rather than just floating through life, I want to be intentional about how I use my time, how I use my life, and how I am experiencing every moment of every day.
That's cool. That's very nice. So you came up with the season of intentionality.
Yes, and I'm still developing what that looks like. And once I have that, then I'm going to basically be utilizing this journal to basically reflect on that every day.
Did you come up with that on purpose?
No. I mean...
That was a joke. I'm sorry.
It was a mistake to be intentional.
Oh. Sorry. Yes.
Don't answer that question.
It's a trap.
Don't answer the question.
Yes, it was completely unintentional.
Trap. Yeah, that was a trap.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is I just wanted to be thinking about how I can be more intentional in my day.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And so this is the idea behind it. It is a self-reflection tool, and it is just to help move you in the direction that you want your life to go. And I've used the fact that the word is resonant with you. It's the idea of, while you're developing these themes, you think of different words, different terms, different ideas, and try to find the word that for lack of a better term, resonates.
Right.
That you go, if I could describe the life that I want to be closer to, it is this word. Whether that is a more ordered life or a more diversified life or a more intentional life.
Very cool. You know what? As you were talking, I'm thinking, yeah, I heard this episode. Well, that episode back from March. In fact, I think that was about the time I really started listening a lot more because I had more time.
What?
Because I remember now you talking about CGP Grey, and I thought, are those initials?
I don't actually know.
I think he got his start as a YouTuber and then joined in on podcasting, or was it the opposite way around?
Oh, so it's just a handle or something. It might have been his real name.
Everybody calls him that.
Okay.
He's a fairly private guy.
Everybody calls him Gray.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. Everybody calls him Gray.
Yeah.
He started a podcast with a fellow YouTuber a few years into his YouTubing, and then has expanded out to more productivity-minded podcasts also.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, he's still very much on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what was his most recent thing? Hexagons are the bestagons.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm intrigued to look into this and see. You know, I'm not the kind of person who sets goals.
Yeah.
I'm just not. And admittedly, sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of floating through life, but I don't call it that. I call it more going with the flow, and what comes my way, I'll deal with it.
I am one who floats through. I go with the flow.
Yeah.
That is who I am. It's more along the lines of I want to be more reflective of how I am.
Okay.
It's hopefully course correcting some of your flow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can see that's a really good value. That's a real benefit of this program would be to reflect on your floating and make a course correction should it need to happen. Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, and just things like, okay, maybe you think about like, hey, I realize that, for example, even before COVID, I'm very much an introvert and tend to spend a lot of time indoors. I tend to not go new places. I tend not to see new things. And maybe that's something that I should think about changing a bit. Even being a little bit more intentional about going out, seeing new people, seeing new places, going on trips and you know, trips. Oh, those, what are those?
Scott, I wanted to ask, would you say your goals were SMART goals?
Or would you say they are vapid goals?
It's a good thing you're not within arm's reach.
Actually, if you watch the Your Theme video, at a later point he does talk about the difference between SMART and vapid goals.
Oh, he does mention. I thought you came up with that. So
sorry, the CG Gray video does not mention the vapid goals because he mentions that in a different video.
Oh, okay.
No. You remember where we sent the email redefining the SMART goal acronym?
It's coming back to me, maybe. We redefined SMART.
Yes.
The acronym to a different, that was not quite as polite as the official definition.
Oh, yeah.
And then we sent it to the head of school with a anonymous email address because, we had control of the mail server.
Yes.
Oh,
and then
no.
he burst into the room blaming our teaching assistant.
Yes.
Because he was a boy that would have done that kind of thing.
Which made it all the better.
Letting him take the full brunt of the blame. We didn't speak up of it. And then when the head of school left, we're like, that was us.
I do remember that.
Sorry you took the blame for that. We did it.
I'm very curious about what you changed it to.
Do you still have it?
Oh, do I still have that? I don't think so.
Yes. I just remember. I can now remember the look on face. Poor kid.
So instead of specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound?
Oh, they were not that nice.
I assumed they weren't when he came in, like, I'm really curious on what they were.
So tell me about your Synology.
Yeah, I should finish up this story. It actually happened a while ago now because we had a big break between recordings. But actually, soon after we recorded the last episode, I got the shipping notification from the lady that I was dealing with at Synology. And I thought they were sending me a box to put my board in. Because there's two kinds of returns you can do. You can do a return where you send off your piece, your broken piece, and then when they receive the broken piece, they'll ship you a new one. which is the normal way of doing it, and that's what I expected. Or you can do the kind of return where they ship you the new piece, you package up the broken piece and return it in the same box. And usually they'll charge you double for that because you're basically prepaying for the piece that you're receiving, and then they cancel that prepayment when they receive your broken piece back. So I thought I was doing the standard one, especially because most of the material online says the international orders are always the standard one. But anyway, she shipped me the fixed piece. So like, was it 5 days after we recorded the last episode, I had received a motherboard that worked, put it in my Synology, everything booted up. Well, with a few clicks through, like, oh my goodness, you have a different motherboard. Well, actually, it said, you put your drives in a new Synology. And I'm like, no. The drives are in the same Synology. The motherboard changed. But anyway, semantics. So I clicked yes, new Synology.
If you keep replacing the pieces on a ship, at what point is it no longer that ship?
Well, funny thing is, I do have 2 Synologies registered to my name now on Synology's website. If I log in, I didn't realize that I had to transfer some of the settings that I have to my new Synology online as well. So I had to do that too, but I didn't realize that till later. But yeah, now it's up and running. I was very pleased to have that happen. In fact, I probably should have waited a day to put the motherboard in. I probably shouldn't have done it because that ended up during our school conferences time. We didn't really have a lot of time in the day for that. So, and I was putting other things to the side, and I probably shouldn't have been doing that. Oh well.
Well, I won't tell if you won't.
But it's fixed.
It's fixed. It's fixed and it's up and going again, and it is very nice. I'm sure I loaded it up with 200 gigabytes worth of stuff that evening because of all the stuff that had been accumulating on my drive that needed to be saved to my Synology. I'm sure I have a few more years with this board. At least I hope I have a few more years with this new motherboard.
At least 6 months.
At least 6 months, exactly. So yes, it is up and running. I am very pleased. It was, yes, like a warm blanket yet again.
Ooh.
Aww.
Snuggling up to my Synology. Wait a minute, I didn't do that.
Well, some of these nights get a little cold, and
it puts out a lot of heat. So, actually, speaking of that, I did forget to. I put it in and then left to go to conferences, my daughter's conferences at school. And I was like, oh, I'll just be able to connect to it from school. And I was like, I can't connect to it because it should just boot up into the same thing, settings and stuff. But then I got home and it was off. And I was like, uh-oh, what happened? Why is it off?
You hadn't plugged it in.
I hadn't plugged in the fans. It overheated and shut off. It safely shut off, which is nice. So I was like, oh, yeah, let me open it all back up again and plug the fan motherboard back in properly. And yeah, I didn't quite have that plug seated properly. So.
Well, at least you know that safety valve works.
Exactly.
Right?
Good. I'm very pleased. And it's the first time I've ever had that happen to me. Overheating Synology.
What are we picking to again today?
Yeah, so the media today has a guy that is put into a very different circumstance than he expected. So I think we're going to try to pick 2 fish out of water type experiences that we've had in our life.
The real problem I'm having with deciding these, by the way, are, okay, let's pick 2 awkward social experiences you've had in your... Oh, wait, no, that's every day. I just live in a state of constant, socially awkward. I am the epitome of the guy who is constantly, holding up the side of the wall at your parties.
I think what helped focus me on some of these was experiences where you're kind of lost. Because that's kind of what we were brainstorming at the beginning, right? When were you lost?
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of focused my decision a little bit more for me. Helped me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be a time that you made somebody else feel lost? Unintentionally made somebody else feel lost?
I tried to explain to somebody the plot of Lost.
Oh heavens. I just give them the DVD set or something.
Scott, you want to go first?
Sure, I can tell one of my 2. This is the pick 2, right? Yeah,
yep,
fish
right.
out of water. So I'll tell the first one, the one that Nate reminded me of. I went to a private university for undergrad, and it had some perks that perhaps you don't get at state universities and such. And I lived in the dorm. We had a suite, 2 rooms with 2 guys, and then a shared study room with 4 desks and a shared bathroom. And at this university, we would have somebody come by every week and clean the bathroom and vacuum the common room. They didn't go into the bedrooms, but they would vacuum the common room. And they would refill the toilet paper and, the sinks, the toilet, the whole shot.
That's convenient.
It was wonderful, to be honest. So I graduate. I take a couple years off and I go back to grad school at a state university. And I decided, I'm just going to do this the easy way and stay in the dorm, even as a grad student. It'll be fine. So I got a freshman as a roommate. He arrived first, the first day of school. And so he was there, got set up and everything. And then I showed up. Hi, I'm Scott. Hello, I'm John. And I'm starting to unpack. And he was just kind of sitting around. We were chatting. And I said, John, can you do me a favor? Go down to the desk in the hall and ask them what day the bathrooms are cleaned and can we get some toilet paper? And he's like, okay. He comes back about 20 minutes later. And I guess they just laughed at him. Because you think we have bathroom cleaning service here and you think we're going to provide you with toilet paper? He comes back to the room. Scott, we have to clean our own bathroom and we have to buy our own toilet paper. It was hilarious. And it was the beginning of a great friendship. We had a wonderful year.
That was wonderful.
So I made somebody else a fish out of water, I suppose. Although I was a fish out of water, I was used to more hoity-toity waters than the ones I was in.
You were not used to the toilet bowl waters?
No, I was not used to the toilet bowl waters. Nope.
Your waters were much cleaner.
Indeed. And somebody else did it.
Somebody else cleaned your tanks. Sorry. Oh, I gotta get out of the fish analogy. All right.
Oh.
I can go next.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I played bass in high school. Bass violin. Very specifically, bass violin. I actually enjoyed a bunch of different classical groups I played in. My school participated in a regional string orchestra fellowship in middle school, and then when you got to higher in high school, you could be a rehearsal assistant for the younger kids, which was always fun because the conductor would bring back pieces of music every 4 years. The music that they would play when I was a rehearsal assistant was music I had already played. That was kind of fun. In the end, I ended up playing in the adult orchestra for that, which was quite exciting. But anyway, I was definitely a classical player. I read notes on paper. And there were 3 bass players in my high school, and the guy that was a year older than me would play in the jazz band because he was pretty good at it. He was classical too, but he was good at jazz. But then he graduated a year earlier than I did. So the jazz band director came up to me and said, could you come play bass for the jazz band? And I said, oh, sure. It's notes on paper. No problem, right? Oh my goodness. Jazz is not notes on paper. I could not handle jazz. Like they would have play this. They would have the most minimal amount of stuff written on the paper. And then you had to do something more than that. And I just could not handle. I was like, what are you talking about? The notes should be on the paper. You're giving me a piece of paper where it's all the notes. I could not handle jazz.
Jazz is the notes that aren't on the paper.
Exactly. You play everything but the notes on the paper, right?
Just about.
But you stay in the same key, of course.
Yes.
Yikes. So I could not handle jazz.
So what was actually on the paper? Did it just say and now flow?
Well, and it's like now the key of C or something. It would give you the very basic, play a chord or, maybe a triad or something, and then repeat that for the next 10 measures. Right. And of course, nobody ever played that. You would play something completely different, but that's what was written on the paper. So I would play that, right. And then the director would be like, can you do something more? I'm like, what more? I'm playing what's written on the paper.
Was it chords like G minor, minor 7, +9, +13, that kind of stuff?
I don't think he gave me papers that were that complex. But still.
Oh, okay.
Well, then maybe it said that and I just ignored it. No, sorry.
See, I just don't understand because when I played any instruments, growing up, I played the E-flat alto horn. So I played brass instruments and then I played an upright string bass, but just classical stuff. I never played anything like jazz or anything complicated like that. And even my brass period was, how shall we say, I wasn't good.
It was experimental. Say it like that.
It was an experimental couple of years of my life. All right, so this is a story of when I made everyone else in the room feel like a fish out of water.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about this, and I think this is the best one that I could think of. So, I was graduating from my undergraduate degree. We were approaching the end, and they say, all right, we're going to have a couple of big hootenannies. That's the official term, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one called the baccalaureate. Now, me being a very smart undergraduate, knew exactly what type of shindig the baccalaureate was going to be. When I say baccalaureate, what do you guys think about? Like, what kind of event?
I would think an official event.
Yeah, rather solemn, official. It's the religious part of a graduation, is it not?
Usually, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I decided that I was going to show up in a Santa outfit.
Oh, no.
I did.
Oh, that is too funny.
I decided that for the baccalaureate, I was going to show up in my Santa outfit that I just happened to have in my closet. I don't remember why I had a Santa outfit, but I had one.
Wait. Is this because you didn't know what a baccalaureate was, or were you purposefully throwing a wrench into the works?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay.
I knew it was a fancy event, but I didn't realize how fancy it was supposed to be. So I show up to the baccalaureate, and
oh no,
the entire event just goes on, and I'm sitting there in my Santa outfit through the entire thing, and to the credit of the college, no one missed a beat. We just kept on going. They just made it through, and then we had the fancy dinner part after the baccalaureate, when every single one of my teachers decided it was important to come up to me and ask me why.
Oh my! I am crying over here. I'm just picturing this. Oh my stars! The glasses are off. I'm wiping my eyes. This is a good story.
I think you're definitely a fish out of water there.
Yeah,
I was comfortable with it.
I think there was a whole lot of fish going on at that time.
To the college's credit, like I said, nobody missed a beat throughout the entire ceremony, but I was sitting there in a Santa outfit.
And you know what? To this day, I'm sure they're still telling that story.
I did some other weird things at that college just because every once in a while I got bored. Like in the middle of campus elections, where everybody was hanging up posters all over saying, vote for this person for campus president, vote for this person for vice president, this person for treasurer. I added a couple of signs on those same bulletin boards that said, vote for Ryan as Holy Grand Inquisitor.
Did you win?
You ran unopposed, right?
I ran unopposed for that.
Yeah.
So I did some interesting things in college. Those were days. Those were interesting days.
Ryan, were you one of those students?
What do you mean by those students?
Oh, you know.
All the way implied.
The kind of the elderly, matronly teachers pull their glasses down their nose upon and peer over at you.
Actually, the funny thing is I was a very good student in all of my classes. Mm-hmm. And so most of the time, I did everything to the letter. I just happened to have occasional circumstances where I did things that were a choice.
Well, you did them well. I mean, you were basically a good boy, but when you weren't, you just went for it.
Well, I graduated early from my high school, but if I had ever been invited to be involved in like a senior prank, I always wanted to do something like you get 4 piglets, you grease them up, and you spray paint 1, 2, 3, and 5 on them.
Yes. And release them.
Yes.
And then watch.
But I graduated early, and, you know, in high school, I was also a good kid, and so nobody invited me to be involved in senior pranks or things like that either. So I was part of the drama club in high school, so we had our own eccentricities there.
Defined drama, not adding drama.
Yeah.
No. All right, so back to you.
All right, so this is my Apostles' Creed story, and it takes place here in Japan. So early on, when I was newly here, I became a shikaisha at my church. That's the person who stands up front and kind of just leads the service. Not preaches, but just leads the congregation to the next thing. Here, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this next. Please stand, please sit. So that kind of thing.
Isn't that like a deacon or something like that?
Well,
Doesn't have to be.
it doesn't have to be. Deacons are ordained or appointed or whatever. I just volunteered for it because I wanted to improve my Japanese. I was at a Japanese church at the time.
Ah.
So my first Sunday, I get up there and I'm doing this all in Japanese, newly in Japan, and I'm going all right. And we get to the part where the congregation is to recite the Apostles' Creed together. And I had practiced it because I knew it was coming up. But there I was up in front of the congregation, first time, nervous. I looked down at the Japanese for the Apostles' Creed and I could not remember the first two kanji, how to say them. And I panicked for what seemed like an eternity, but was really only a few seconds. And I said the only thing that came to my head, and that was something that I'd heard other people say to lead a group of people doing the same thing at the same time. So there I am, shirt, tie, coat, up in front of the congregation, and I say no. And the congregation bursts into laughter.
I saw it coming.
And I looked down at Pastor with wide eyes, and he just started them off on the right thing. And once I got going, I was fine. Then I remembered the rest of it and leading. So after the service, I went up to him and I said, Pastor, what did I say? He said, Scott, basically you started the Apostles' Creed with, ready, go.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's what that translates to. Ready, set.
That sounds like the appropriate way to start the Apostles' Creed, though.
You got to dive right in.
Dive right in. Yeah. I had a few flubs in that. I won't say job. They didn't pay me, but I had a few flubs in that position. I once said, "Otachi kudasai," when they were supposed to sit down, which means stand up. They were already standing. More giggles. I guess I was like part shikaisha and part comic relief at that church.
Actually, I had a Japanese flub the other day. It was very small. It didn't affect many people, but I was at my brother-in-law's wedding, and he was marrying a Japanese girl. So in the Japanese wedding, the families kind of sit in a line, and then they pull back a curtain, and then we see each other, and we all introduce ourselves. In Japanese, that's called aisatsu, right? Mm-hmm. Aisatsu meaning introduction.
Right.
But, my brother-in-law is Korean. My wife is Korean. They're all Korean. So I was communicating, and my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law's sister, and my wife's sister is in Korea right at the moment. So she couldn't make the wedding. So I was trying to contact her via messages saying it's time to FaceTime. We're about ready to start. And in Korean, the word for aisatsu is insa. So I was typing real quick on my phone. It's like, it's time to, and then I mixed it up. So I said, are you ready? It's time for insatsu. and she didn't notice, actually. So I said, it's time for insatsu. Call me when you're ready. So then they pull back the curtain. My phone rings. I open the phone. I'm sure my brother-in-law's newly wife's family is thinking, who's this crazy guy with the phone ringing during this moment? But of course, I turned the phone around to show them that my sister-in-law is there. But anyway, I come back later, and I was reading the message that I sent to my sister-in-law, and it says, it's time for insatsu. Insatsu is the Japanese word for printing. So, and I know insatsu because, as a tech person, everybody has problems with their, you read it in, file print. In Japanese, it says file insatsu, right?
Insatsu.
So anyway, and I was like, oh my goodness, insatsu. Sorry. I meant to say aisatsu or insa, not insatsu.
You had a multilingual spoonerism. No, that wasn't a spoonerism. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's my not able to tell the two different languages apart yet, right? My not quite trilingual mind.
Yeah.
I think I'm still bilingual with some words being used for one thing and some words being used for another. I'm not quite trilingual. I probably won't be for quite a while still. So anyway, trying to get there at least. All right. Sorry. Anyway, that was a sidetrack. My next one. When my wife and I were newly married, we did travel quite a bit. We like traveling. And twice we went to Australia before my kids were born. And we had a great time in Australia both times. But when everybody was talking in their Australian accent at me, that was the first time that I was the person with the accent, right? You know, even going to the South, I didn't feel like I'm the person with the accent, right? But man, I went to Australia and I felt like I had the accent and everybody else was talking like that. And the amount of time it took me to understand what they were saying was significant, I felt. They would be talking whole sentences to me, right? And then I'd be staring at them. And it would take another half a second, and then everything would click in. Oh, that's what they just said. And then I'd be able to respond, right? And they'd be like, who is this guy? How come he's not understanding English, right? You know, I'm talking English to them. But man, the amount of delay from what they said to when my brain put it together into actually what they said was very significant for me. And I'd never had that before, and it felt really weird. But I definitely enjoyed my time there.
That's great. That's funny. I have a similar story. I was driving in the U.S. I was driving from Detroit to Dallas to attend a workshop. Thought I would just do the car trip for the fun of it. And I stopped in Hannibal, Missouri on the way. It was lunchtime. And so I pulled into this restaurant and went in and sat down. And the name of this restaurant was Made Right.
Oh, yeah.
Maderite. And I didn't really notice that. I just saw tables and waitresses and food. So I sat down, and the waitress came over and she said, "Would you like the Mad Rat sandwich?" And I said, "I beg your pardon?" Me, the northerner. "Would you like the Mad Rat sandwich? It's what most people here get, the Mad Rat sandwich." And I said, I'm sorry, could you say the name of that sandwich again?" "The Mad Rat sandwich." She was getting a little perturbed with me. And when I finally said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't understand what kind of sandwich that is," she went and got a menu and kind of slapped it down in front of me. And it's the Made Right sandwich. I was thinking they found an angry rodent and turned it into a meal, because that's the only thing I could parse from this question. So, but it's loose burger. It's like a sloppy Joe without the sloppy part.
Oh.
It's just loose hamburger on a bun.
That doesn't sound that great, but...
Well, it's just kind of like the burger fell apart. There's also pickles and whatever else have you. It's just not a formed burger. But yeah, anyway.
No, it just doesn't sound that appetizing to me.
Yeah, it actually wasn't.
So it wasn't Mad Rat.
It was a Mad Rat.
I had a kangaroo burger in Australia. It was kind of fun.
You had one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It was good.
Tastes like chicken?
I don't really remember. I just remember it being good. I don't remember what it tasted like.
Okay, Ryan.
So this is actually one where I felt like a fish out of water. I've mentioned before that I went on a mission trip to Spain, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this is a story that I blocked this one out of my mind for a while, simply because it was one of those experiences that I was like, I'm not even sure what just happened.
You had to dig it out for this, huh?
Yeah, I did.
I already like it.
Good. So we did a lot of things through our mission trip. What we basically did was we went to various locations throughout Spain with the Salvation Army, and we just basically helped them out however they needed. So we would go to one church and say, okay, what do you need us to do? Whatever you need, we're here for you. And then after a week, we would go to a new church, so on and so forth, just all the Salvation Armies in the area that we could hit within the 2.5 months we were there. So we get to one specific location and they say, well, on this day, we're going to go to basically a nursing home or a retirement home. I'm not really sure what it was, but it was something like that. And we were just supposed to spend time with the folks who lived there. Okay, easy enough. Oh, I should preface this with, I was the only one on the team who understood no Spanish.
No, okay.
Everyone else in the team had some basic understandings of Spanish, but they said, Ryan, you, who speak no Spanish, should definitely be on the team that's going to Spain. So that's where I was. So what the leader of my team says is, all right, so Ryan, what we're going to do is we're basically just going to spend some time with these people. I ended up just walking circuits around the garden, I guess, with this little old lady who basically just hung on my arm, and we just walked around the garden for, it must have been about 20 minutes to half an hour. And she would just tell me about whatever came to her mind. And I knew nothing of what she was saying to me. I would nod and go, And when she paused expecting me to laugh, I would laugh because clearly I had gotten enough of social cues that I could understand, like, when was I supposed to laugh? When was I not supposed to laugh? And so we got through the entire circuit a couple of times, and one of the people on my team said, Ryan, you shouldn't be laughing with her. Oh, no. And I just went, okay. And so getting that cue, I went, okay, maybe I'll cut out the laughing. And so I just nodded, and eventually I parted ways with the old lady. And when we got into the van later, I turned to my friend, the person who had given me that heads up, and apparently she was saying all kinds of off-color things that I was laughing and nodding to the entire time. And I had no idea what I was doing. It was apparently all kinds of atrocious, but that's what I was nodding and laughing with, was this little old lady in the Spanish Salvation Army nursing home who was just telling me all sorts of awful things, and I was smiling and nodding and laughing along with her.
You know, that's almost out of a movie plot. You hear of people that know a language and are teaching somebody a few phrases in that language, and they tell them something completely wrong to embarrass them.
That is basically how I felt. We were on a team of, I think it was 7 or 8. It's been many years. But I want to say we were on a team of about 7 people. Everybody else on the team at least knew some basic Spanish. I knew nothing. Nothing. I took German in high school.
Oh.
And I don't remember very much of that.
Schade.
I remember basically enough to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just laughing with this little old lady who seemed to be normal enough and just a nice lady. And apparently I was laughing at all sorts of wrong things. And I have no idea what it was to this day.
Do you think she was just playing you, or was she maybe not mentally all there and...
Yeah, testing you?
Maybe a little bit of A and a little bit of B.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
Silly foreigner.
Stupid American.
Right.
This is the same summer where before we left, we were told, you guys need to make sure that you eat and drink anything that's provided for you. Do not leave any leftovers because they will view it as rude. And so when we first arrived at our very first location, they had given us a 24-pack of Coke. And so we said, okay, guys, this means that we have to finish this Coke. And we got to like 4 days in, and we were moving at a decent enough pace that we could get rid of it all by the time we left. And then they gave us another 24-pack because they thought we were running low. It gets better. The second location, they gave us an entire sheet cake.
Oh, no.
We were told we have to eat everything, and there was like a party platter-sized sheet cake for the 7 of us.
No.
So we turned it into a game. We would do various games, and whoever lost the game would have to eat
Piece of cake.
a large piece of cake, like a 13-inch piece of cake.
Oh, man. Yikes.
So, yeah, it was an interesting summer.
There was a big earthquake in India soon after I got here to Japan. I don't remember exactly what year. But there was an Indian restaurant that my friend and we would go to that restaurant frequently. So when this earthquake happened, the Indian shop owner was putting out like a call for help. Hey, we're packing up a container. Anyone that can come and help and volunteer, that'd be great. So and I volunteered. And we went down to help them, and it ended up being pretty quick work. I think a lot of people came out. We were able to pack it up pretty quickly. But then they brought us to lunch, which was great. We're like, oh, great. You know, the Indian restaurant owner wants to make us lunch. That's excellent. So they gave us, plates of curry. And then we finished those plates of curry because, of course, it was delicious. And then they brought us a whole nother plate. And then they kept bringing us plates. And we're like, oh, goodness, I think we're going to have to leave some on the plate so they don't bring us any more plates. But, man, I was super full after that. But it was a very fun day, and the food was excellent. But, yeah, they kept feeding us, so we had to say, okay, leave some on your plate. Don't finish it.
All right, shall we try this?
Yes. All right.
Wait. So, Scott, are you thirsty? Sorry.
I am, Nate.
You wouldn't be parched, would you be?
How did you know?
This seems like a seamless segue.
Wait a minute. Is there a seamed segue? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, exactly what we just did is pretty badly seamed.
So, cinnamon Pepsi. You know, I mentioned this to somebody earlier today, and I got quite the nose turn. Like, ew. Well, it sounds terrible.
Had they already tried it?
No, they haven't. They just turned their nose up at the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just cinnamon Pepsi. You have to know it's also 0-calorie cinnamon Pepsi.
Oh, it
and
is
Pepsi, too.
indeed.
Like, every part of the name there just took it down a notch.
And why did they have to put sweeto before the cinnamon?
I saw that, too, just now. I was wondering that as well.
Okay.
Because it's sweet cinnamon.
So cinnamon and sugar.
Oh, okay. So, but there's no sugar.
No, there's no calories.
Cinnamon saccharin.
It's probably asuparutemu, right?
Probably.
I'm looking at the ingredients. I can't find it.
I can't read anything in here. So, bit of a side note. You remember it's been about 3 weeks when I said my light burned out in my bedroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't talked to anybody about it.
Okay.
I'm sitting in the dark recording here.
Oh, I was going to say, what is the segue to lights out in the bedroom? I said, you can't read the label.
Yeah, I can't read the label at all.
You silly.
So I bought this because I saw it on the shelf and I was like, oh, we got to try this. Yet again, a punishment to try. And then Ryan had the same thought.
I had the exact same thought, and so I bought it thinking, oh, I'm going to give this to Nate. And so we ended up with 4 of these.
It's like,
You have the guest take one of them, so at least you only have 1 left and not 2, right?
Yep.
right, I'll give the other ones to my kids.
They'll drink anything.
I don't know. They didn't actually try the caramel punch since I had so much of it left over from last time.
They didn't try it? I thought you had them try it.
I tried to have them try it. Some of them tried it, but most of them didn't. I think maybe my youngest tried it, but the other 2 were like, no.
Yeah. Well, here's what you do. If it was me in that situation, here's what I would have done. I would have waited for the youngest to try it, and then, based on their reaction, decide whether or not I'm going to have any.
Mm-hmm.
Although I am the youngest.
If I give it to them tomorrow, I'll bring out my mic and record them.
That'd be fun. All right, now.
So Pepsi Cinnamon.
0
calorie.
We kind of do this together, don't we?
I'm going to crack it open.
Yeah, here we
All
go.
right, me too.
I can smell the cinnamon.
Yeah. It does smell a little bit like cinnamon.
I'm not smelling cinnamon.
Right?
Oh, there it is. It was turpentine first.
You mean the Pepsi? Sorry.
Maybe that was the Pepsi smell. I don't know. So let me try this. Wow. It seems to me the cinnamon is like a way afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of lost in the
It's lost in the, hey, this is Pepsi.
0 calorie.
Yeah. Did they only have the 0 calorie version?
Yeah, they did.
They only had 0 calorie.
I basically am tasting a lot of Pepsi,
Yeah.
and as if somebody took cinnamon powder and put it in the Pepsi.
You really have to wait for the cinnamon, don't you?
But the cinnamon powder is like, they took like a thimbleful.
It's not that strong when it gets here.
They took like a thimbleful,
Wow.
threw it into the Pepsi, and just shook it up.
And just like more sweet Pepsi.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's what Pepsi needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh. Now it's just stuck in my mouth. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. The cinnamon is disappointingly not strong enough.
Nah.
In fact, if it was stronger, it might actually be better.
Yeah, I was thinking too. Those 3 little bubbles on the side, you turn it around counterclockwise and it's got calorie 0 and sugar 0. And then that one is preservatives 0. They need a 4th one. Cinnamon 0.
No.
Flavor 0.
Yeah, or close to 0. Nah. Yeah, So what's the score, boys?
Honestly, I'm just going to say, well, what did we give Caramel?
The caramel punch was a 1.
We gave Caramel Punch a 1?
Yeah, I think that's been our lowest, with our Pepsi Ume and
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Wait, I thought the strawberry one was the lowest.
Well, we didn't end up grading that one because it never aired, but...
Oh, that's true. That's right. Didn't even deserve airtime.
But I would say that the caramel punch one is even worse than that.
Yeah, caramel punch is worse than this.
Yeah.
This I can finish. Caramel punch I couldn't finish.
Wow.
I'm going to say this is a solid 3.
Yeah, I think we gave the salty lime a 3.
And that's about where I'm feeling. I feel like this is on the par with the... No, this one's on par with the lychee.
That's what I meant. Salty lychee. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Which was, again, a disappointing Pepsi. It was...
Because it tasted like Pepsi. It tasted like Pepsi with like...
Well, the disappointment is that it just tastes like Pepsi. There isn't much cinnamon.
There's nothing interesting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They could have... You know what? If we had some of those... What were those little red cinnamon candies called? Do you remember those?
Oh, yes.
They were really strong.
Yes.
Red Hots.
Red Hots, yes.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Drop a couple of Red Hots in here. That'd be good. Or cinnamon Altoids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So, yes, where we landed was, I said a 3.
Oh, yeah, 3. Oh, yes, 3. I think
Oh,
it's a 3.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say 2.5 or 3 because it isn't bad. It's just disappointing because there's not more cinnamon.
Exactly. And I'm only saying a 3 because that means it's nowhere near as bad as last week's was.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't have that experience.
And it's nowhere near the glory that was some of the other drinks.
Mm-hmm.
The glory? Are you saying that sarcastically, or do you mean the really good ones?
There were some really good ones, yeah.
Yeah, some of the CC Lemon Summer ones were pretty good.
You guys loved those. You went on and on.
Well,
yeah.
How can you say anything bad about CC Lemon?
Well, remember Rich Honey.
Oh. That's because that's a bastardization of what is good and holy about CC Lemon.
You added something you weren't supposed to.
Bastardization?
Well, one of the reasons we invited Scott on was because both Scott and I hadn't seen this sci-fi show. And as sci-fi fans, we want to be caught up on the whole sci-fi stuff. So Ryan was introducing us to a new show, so we had to watch it, both of us.
Yes, and that being said, I decided that it was important to introduce them to a new show that started airing in the 90s.
And did this start on Sci-Fi Channel? Did it start on a different channel, or was it?
Yes, it premiered in the U.S. on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes.
On Friday, March 19th at 1999.
It was originally produced for 9 Network.
Oh, what? I've never heard of that.
The 9 Network is a Australian commercial free-to-air television network.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's basically, it was originally Australian-American sci-fi TV show. So it was originally produced in Australia and then made it to America shortly thereafter. I wanted them to experience Farscape, which I genuinely really love and thought that they should watch it. Basically, just see it for themselves, and because I genuinely thought or hope that they would love it as well, and just wanted to talk about it today. So that's basically where we're at. We are going to start by talking about the first episode of Farscape. So I'm going to give everyone a bit of a summary of the first episode of Farscape so that we can get everybody up to date on what we're going to talk about. We might touch into some of the other episodes, but we're going to focus primarily on the first episode. So, as always, I'm going to provide a short summary. If you have not watched it yet, I would highly encourage that you go ahead and watch it. If you have watched it, but it's been such a long time that you can't remember how the first episode went, don't worry, this is the summary for you. So, Farscape opens with John Crichton, an astronaut with the International Aeronautics Space Administration, who is testing a theory of space travel when he is unexpectedly sucked through a wormhole. When he reaches the other side of the wormhole, he comes out in the middle of a fight that is between the Peacekeepers and a large ship which he later discovers to be a Leviathan named Moya. He encounters the alien passengers aboard Moya, Drago, Rygel the XVI, and Zahn. These passengers are all escaped convicts, and Moya was a prison transport ship that the passengers took over and hijacked with the help of Pilot, who is Moya's pilot. Crichton does not understand what they're saying or what they're even asking him until he is injected with translator microbes, after which they ask him how he appeared suddenly hoping to use the same technique to escape the Peacekeepers. When Crichton is unable to help, they perform a maneuver of jumping through space called a starburst and stick Crichton in a cell with another captured person, a captured Peacekeeper actually, named Aaron. The convicts find a planet and land for supplies after they have escaped the Peacekeepers, and meanwhile, together with Aaron, Crichton breaks out of prison and escape planetside where they contact the Peacekeepers. When they arrive, Crace, the Peacekeeper commander, catches up with them and wants to kill Crichton, as when he first appeared, his ship clipped another ship, which killed Crace's brother. Aaron sticks up for Crichton, and in exchange is arrested with the rest of the convicts. Crichton, Drago, Aaron all form a very tenuous alliance as they break away from the Peacekeepers and get off and away from the planet where they escape from the Peacekeepers and further into space. So, first things first, I want your general first impressions and opinions.
Okay, so do you want the first opinion and impression?
Sure. Give me your first opinion and impression.
This is the first one. It changes, so just hang in there. But one of the first scenes, if not the first scene, is Crichton's father sending him off, wishing him well and going into a little bit of what he had done as an astronaut. Crichton's father was also an astronaut. I can't remember what he did, something significant. I don't recall what it was. And I was sitting there watching this and thinking, oh heavens, if the whole of this show is written like this, I can't do this. It was just so sappy. It just seems so contrived. So I'm sorry, but that was my first impression. It's like, no, I hope the writing gets better. Well, it did.
I think, yes, I picked up on the writing. I think that struck me a little bit. So Ryan introduced this to me earlier on as a show where the creatures were done by Brian Henson or the Jim Henson team. And I think I had my expectations a bit higher. Now, I think Rygel, I think he met the expectations that I was looking for. I think Dago, disappointed me a little bit. His makeup hasn't impressed me yet. Drago, sorry. He's very elaborate, but the nose covering his mustache just is a little bit weird to me. Anyway, but it's a nitpick in some ways.
Keep in mind, you are watching a Blu-ray from a show that originally
that was
aired
shown on a 4x3 television. Yes. Over the air.
Well, that was another thing that I thought in those first scenes was that it sounded to me like it was written in the mid-'80s, not in the last of the 90s. It's like even 70s kind of dialogue. I'm thinking, oh, man.
Yeah, well, and I think, too, I watched 3 episodes. And I have to be careful because I'm judging it against Star Trek, probably, which is a bit harsh for a series, especially a Sci-Fi Channel series where some of them are just created to be fun. Because I think these first 3 are still setting things up. And I'd like to get further on in the series before I make this final distinction. But, I like the sci-fi shows that know themselves like Stargate and know that it's a comedy show and plays off the fact that it's a comedy show, or Star Trek that's trying to teach you a message. And this show hasn't gotten to either of those yet. But again, it's the first 3 episodes, so I can't really say that yet. It sounds to me that it's probably going to lean more on we're going to have fun in the comedy aspect of things than we're going to be trying to teach you social lessons. And I think that's fine because I loved Stargate for that.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would say that for me, they hit a good balance.
Okay.
I would agree with you, Ryan. Having watched 6 episodes, especially the last one I watched, I think it's both, Nate. I think you'll find that it's both.
Okay. That's kind of exciting then.
If we are putting these on the spectrum of Stargate is having fun and Star Trek is teaching you a message, I feel like this is the balance between those two.
That's good. I think my expectations were going to be more that we were going to have aliens like Rygel throughout the series, not just Makeup by Jim Henson, aliens by Jim Henson. So I think in some ways I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't have like Skeksis type aliens or things like that in the first 3 episodes here. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, I think. Because I liked where they went with Rygel. I'm not sure that he was perfect, but he was well done, I thought. Even the fact that his mouth doesn't quite move normally is kind of funny, I think. And he's got great expressions. So
here's one of my next impressions was, Star Trek meets the Muppets.
I told you that it is indeed Brian Henson and the Jim Henson studio making a lot of the aliens.
Right. And actually, I almost would say Star Wars meets the Muppets, because it's got more of a Star Wars feel to it.
A lived-in universe.
Yeah. To me, that's because of the impression that I got early on of where it felt like it was written, or I should say when it felt like it was written, more in the toward a Star Wars era. You know, because there was that big hiatus between the original series and the Next Generation. So that's why I would think Star Wars meets the Muppets. But I have to say, those first couple or 3 episodes, with, you know, seeing Jim Henson Studios work there, I was almost expecting Statler and Waldorf to pop up into the screen at some point. Because, okay, where are they? What are they going to say? Who are they going to heckle? But I was just sitting there waiting, and this big smile on my face. Of course, they never do. But it was just kind of funny to me.
Well, I will say, first of all, so you mentioned earlier, like, when we had passed in the hallway at work, I was afraid that you weren't enjoying it as much. But the thing that I wanted to say to you at that time was the fact that those first couple of episodes are really, they're the establishing shots.
Right.
They're the place where you are beginning to understand what type of world is this. And I will say that throughout season 1 is good. The later seasons get better.
That was an unasked question I had, and you answered it because you said that to me in the hallway one day, and I'm thinking, okay, it's only fair. That happened to Next Generation.
And that's the thing I was going to say. You remember what season 1 of Star Trek Next Gen was?
Yeah.
The show's got to find its footing. So it's too... Even we made fun of Encounter at Farpoint when we talked about that a little bit, too.
How can you not?
Just imagine what the world was like when that was the new episode, right?
Yeah.
But anyway...
As for the Brian Henson and Jim Henson Studios influence, I mean, there are other examples of the puppets. For example, in the first episode, when Rygel and everyone is on the planet and they're talking to the shopkeeper, that shopkeeper, which looks like a giant bug in the wall, basically, is another one of those puppets.
One question I have.
Okay.
So one thing that I liked that they have many different ways to go. You know, they've got the Peacekeeper problem that they started the episode with, Crichton destroying that guy's brother. They've started a whole bunch of threads in these first 3 episodes already. But I think one of the threads that I'm disappointed in that they don't seem like they've sold themselves on is the fact that this crew that's in Moya are criminals. But we're supposed to like them still. I'm struggling with that one because it's like, wait a minute, you said they're criminals, but we're kind of liking them, you know. I'm struggling with that thread a bit. It sounds like we're supposed to like Dago and Zahn and Rygel. We're supposed to kind of like them, but they don't seem like criminals. Are they wrongly, are the Peacekeepers really the bad guys, or are they really the good guys? I think that one's not quite hammered down for me yet, and I'm struggling with that one.
That's because I feel like where you're at in the series, they haven't really gotten into what are the Peacekeepers and what are all of these different groups.
On the other hand, though, they haven't really got into what crimes the fugitives have committed. You get those a little later. I mean, I'm only in episode 6, and I know a lot more about what they've done because it gets divulged. But Nate, I'm in the same place, and I had to think about, there was a time in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there seemed to be a time back in about the 90s, 80s and 90s when there was this push for people to like the bad guys.
Well, also, I hate to put it this way, guys, but there's another space sci-fi show that you root for the bad guys. It becomes that you root for a guy named Mal and him and his smuggling team.
I think he's the more oppressed guys.
He's one of the oppressed guys.
Well, keep watching. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say I don't want to ruin too much in this series.
No.
If it's going to get paid off, that sounds good, because they shouldn't pay it off in 3 episodes. They should wait to pay that off. So struggling to figure out who the bad guys are is a little bit tough.
Well, I mean, in the first episode, they do a quick, like, oh, what were you in for? Where Zahn says, oh, I was the head revolutionary for my homeworld.
The anarchist.
The head anarchist. Thank you.
That's right.
That's the
The
word
head
she
anarchist.
says. The head anarchist.
She called herself Thursday.
Yeah, right.
No. She would be Sunday.
Oh, that's right. She'd be Sunday.
Oh,
she wasn't
Sunday.
a policeman.
Right. Right.
But
Dago's.
he says that he killed his commanding officer.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
And that's all you hear about in episode 1.
Right. What I don't remember. Has Rygel told us what his crime is?
Yes, he said that his
cousin, right, usurped him.
Yep, and after
yeah.
he was usurped, basically he ended up running from the legal authority
So Rygel hasn't done anything wrong. He's just on the run because
he's been usurped.
Yes.
He got in prison for eating too much.
Yeah. Oh, just wait.
Oh, okay.
Oh, just wait.
I mean, that's what.
Just wait.
We have a puppet. What can we do? Let's stuff him with food all the time. I love it.
I'll say it again. Just wait.
I love it when they throw him off the sled into the wall, though. That was the best.
Oh, okay. I have to admit this. I love Rygel now. He is great. He's got a lot of the funniest lines. I almost texted you two in the middle of episode 5 or 6 because, it's after one of his feedings, one of his stuffing his faces, that he says something to the effect of, if I wasn't feeling so rotten, I would have an appropriate nasty comeback or something. It's hilarious.
Rygel is a fantastic character.
Another thought that occurred to me was how, when you watch science fiction, you don't even talk about suspension of disbelief. I mean, it's science fiction, right?
It's assumed.
Right. So you're watching this show with Muppets in it, basically, and so you're thinking, yeah, I don't have to believe that Rygel looks like that Rygel is actually a puppet.
Yep.
He's just as real as the humans and the Sebaceans.
And Yoda.
Right. Right. That was another thing that I thought was really cool. Rygel floats.
Yes.
He's got a...
But I do think that's just because they're hiding the puppet under him, right?
Right.
The puppeteer.
Right. They're probably... Yeah, the puppeteer.
But it is great.
Yeah. So he can hover.
And it works with his personality and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a suspension of disbelief, but it fits him.
It fits so well.
What's his title? Dominar
Rygel the 16th.
That's
but
right.
he's so much like Rygel the First.
That's right.
He was overthrown by his cousin.
That's right.
He was once the royal ruler of the Hynerian Empire.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Throughout season 1, you are introduced to a lot of different characters who will be larger and larger in the story as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets even better, and I am trying my best not to say certain things to spoil.
Yeah, I'm sure. I do have a question for you, Ryan, though.
Yes.
Just as they did in the Star Trek shows, do they give each character kind of an episode? I mean, first it's all about Crichton and what happened to him. Is there an Aaron episode? Is there a Zahn episode?
There are a lot of episodes where they tend to focus on one person at a time.
Okay. Yeah.
That being said, there are also a lot of episodes where it's about the overarching story or about
the ensemble
the ensemble, or even sometimes like an unlikely pair who are working together during this one. Those are sort of the things that happen a lot.
I am appreciative already. I mean, I think it was even more like 4 episodes or 5 episodes, and I was thinking that the character development is really, really good. I really enjoyed that.
I would fully agree with that.
The writing sometimes at the beginning was a little bit off, but it does settle, and the character development gets quite good.
All I can say is the writing's off.
I did like the time in the 3rd episode. They have little time jumps.
Yep.
And while I didn't like a lot of the other parts of that episode particularly, but that was one of the poorest ones I've seen so far. But the time stuff in that one was great. I loved that that he was looking forward in time and was changing his future. I liked that part of it. And that, for me, that's enough to resurrect an episode.
Well, it's interesting that a show that new would take on a time-munging-based theme,
Pretty early on.
Yeah, pretty early on. I was a bit impressed about that.
And do it well.
Yes.
Just so you know, what happens for the entire series, though, is there are 4 seasons, and then at the end of season 4, they left it on a cliffhanger. So they actually had to do a 2-episode miniseries to end out the whole thing.
Yes, I read that. Interesting.
Because it got canceled after season 4 for some reason.
And there's a cliffhanger there.
Yep, yeah. There's a big cliffhanger. And so they need to wrap it all up. And so there was a miniseries, a movie. I guess it'd be a miniseries.
Yeah, and I don't want to give any spoilers either. But you know what? I was, reading up on the show for this show. And it was hard not to find out some things that come along later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to stop.
And again, I can't really fault them on that because
it's a 20-year-old show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 20-year-old show.
I did like, speaking of 20 years old, I did like that it was in HD. Like, that's kind of nice, actually, because even Stargate didn't start filming HD till halfway through its series. So it was kind of nice that they had the special effects in HD already.
Was HD pretty new in 99, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. Original picture format was 1.33 to 1.
Yeah, it's 4:3.
4:3, yeah.
Ratio.
So it was a 4:3 aspect ratio for the first 3 seasons, and then they went to widescreen aspect ratio in season 4.
But I mean, even all of the special effects have been rendered in HD. I mean, because one of the reasons why they're not doing a Blu-ray of Deep Space Nine is because all the special effects are not HD. Nobody's going back to redo the special effects for Deep Space Nine, unfortunately, which is too bad.
Yeah. One other plug for the show. I thought it was a brilliant move to handle the language thing right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something that Star Trek didn't ever do.
No.
Sometimes made fun of, but didn't really do.
I also love the fact that the first little bits, you're hearing what he's hearing and going, I don't understand them, I don't understand them, I don't understand them. Yeah. And it isn't until he's injected with the colony of translation microbes.
Yeah.
Which, can I just say, I want that.
Seriously.
What about the grub that brushes your teeth? Do you want that guy too?
Oh,
no.
I'd take that.
No. But see, I love the line. Tastes kind of minty. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ryan, did you read any of the comic books?
I did not. Actually, here's the funny thing. I did not watch this show until I came to the school that we work at.
Oh.
Because one of our coworkers, who has been on the show before, so I can mention his name, Keith, is the one who introduced this show to me.
You know what's funny and interesting is that a guy named Lanny Tupu is Crace, and he voices Pilot.
Oh, okay.
He's Lanny John Tupu, Pilot, but he's also Crace.
Yep, he is Bylar Crace and Pilot's voice.
Huh. Well, so maybe the answer to this later. It's not as important, but so Pilot comes with the ship. Is he like a permanent fixture?
Actually, Pilot is attached to the ship.
Oh.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
He is Moya's pilot, but also her, how to put this?
Interface?
Caretaker,
interface, all those things.
Yeah.
He is a member of a race called pilots or servicers, which they are basically the caretakers.
Yeah. It's kind of like Dax. I've only found that out because I started reading Wikipedia about the characters because I wanted to find a little bit more about them. And that's when I got into some things I probably shouldn't have. Oh, shit.
You were like, oh no.
Too early, huh?
I found out things.
No, stop reading. Stop reading. So ask me if I'm going to continue watching the show.
I assumed that you were. Are you going to continue watching the show?
Yes. I mean, I went all the way to 6 and I'm enjoying it. I really am. I mean, it still feels like an old show to me. Well, it is an old show, but I mean, it feels a little older than it is. But it's getting, I don't want to say better, it's getting more current in my mind. And of course, as Nate mentioned earlier, you really can't compare it to Star Trek. It's in a different universe. Get it?
Is it a parallel dimension?
Yes, it is parallel dimension. I mean, financially, right?
Yeah. Well,
they just didn't have the big bucks like Star Trek has. So
they had, I think they had some money, but I don't know if they had like Star Trek money.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm going to keep watching it too. I think, I want a show to relax to. It did seem to me that some of the later episodes have more of an arc. They're less episodic, which bodes well to me.
Yeah.
Again, I've mentioned this before, but it is a series that where you're at right now is you are getting the establishing shots.
Yeah.
We're in its infancy, Nate. You and I are in the show's infancy. Seriously. Because it happens to all of them. Yes, it's an episodic thing right now. It doesn't have a big storyline over 4 or 5 or 8 episodes yet. But
yeah, and not too many shows have their best season the first season.
And that's coming. I'm just gonna tell you that. That is the most spoiler I'm gonna try to be. It is coming. That is coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. It's been great. It's been fun. It's just like sitting at home with a couple of friends.
Which I think it kind of was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Just not in the same room. We were socially distanced.
We were socially distanced.
Yes, we're all sitting in our respective homes and just happen to be talking to our friends.
That's right. You're not in a radio studio with boom mics.
No.
Despite what everybody might think about what my house looks like. No.
Scott was in the center. I was on the left.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I was actually lowered from the ceiling. Mission Impossible style.
I was raised up amid clouds of smoke and loud music and lights. No, I'm kidding.
I had happy thoughts. I was just floating.
I was just imagining the entirety of like Monty Python, the scenes of the sky rolling back to reveal God in the Holy Grail.
Yes.
Next time, Scott, we're going to do the Star Trek episode, Season 1, Episode 26, The Neutral Zone, the last episode of the first season.
Oh.
It is an interesting episode. We're going to be covering that one. Hope you can listen in.
Yeah, I certainly will.
One can't be neutral on it.
Well, there's Romulans in it, you know.
Other than that, I will have to say that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue through Reddit at r/myhilltodieon or through contacting us through Twitter at myhilltodieon. You can also reach us by email at, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, also named, say it with me now, My Hill to Die On.
I should call you Scott, right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's my name. You can call me Mr. Ponzani. I mean, I'm used to it, but go ahead.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these... Oh, sorry.
Oops,
goodness.
That's me. Hey!
Sorry.
Should I just do it and you'll edit it and we start over?
It's fine. Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
Right. And we talk about these experiences.
Maybe we got to get Ken Case on the podcast.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
There's a lot of people who I'd love to have on the podcast.
Merlin Mann's kind of disappeared, isn't he? Is he?
He has a podcast I listen to.
He has a podcast.
Oh, does he? Okay, I haven't found it yet. I mean, I haven't looked for it, but
it's not productivity oriented. I think he has a productivity oriented podcast that I don't listen to, and then a Shooting the Breeze podcast that I listen to.
Yeah. Oh, Shooting the Breeze. Okay. Do you remember the price list we had?
The price list? Oh yeah.
Is this the price for the actual answer?
Yeah. So you come in for a question, and there was a whole price list. It's 100 yen if you want an answer, and that could be anything that we decide to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was 500 yen if you wanted an answer that pertained to the question you asked, and it was 1,000 yen if you wanted an answer that actually helped you solve the problem concerning the question you asked, and it was 3,000 yen for a completely correct answer of exactly what to do, or something to that effect. Oh, we had fun. We had fun. This was back when I had my tech mojo, which I've completely lost.
Oh, I'm sure you still have some.
Well, there's a remnant. Do you still have your tech.com shirts?
I do. Mm-hmm.
I do too.
One day during the summer, I was like, oh, I'll wear my... I don't often wear my Bow Before Me for I Am Root shirt because I feel it's a bit rude. But I was wearing it one day in the summer. I came into school and was doing some work, And then I get a call, oh, the board is having an emergency meeting and they need you to set up stuff in the whatever conference room. I'm like,
no.
oh, okay. So I'm wearing my Bow Before I Am Root shirt while I'm setting up all the projectors and stuff for the board.
So I'll let you guys in on 2 shirts that I just got.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be wearing them to staff professional development days. The first one says, "Just pretend I'm not here. That's what I'm doing."
Sounds about right.
And the other one says, and I think I'm going to wear this one first. It says, "I've had my patience tested. I'm negative."
So I do have something that is arriving sometime in the next week or 2.
Uh-huh.
I ordered a bunch of masks.
Oh, okay.
That include such wonderful things as, one is a picture of 2 characters from a movie, and above it, it says, "Have fun storming the castle."
Oh.
Love it.
I have a whole bunch of masks that are various references to different things. I have one that just says "Don't Panic" in big red bold letters.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
So those should be arriving soon because I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm wearing a mask every day. I might as well have fun with them.
Absolutely. You've given me some inspiration. I'm going to have to look for some things. What's the plural of Synology?
Synologies? Synology?
Synologists?
No, those are the ones that study the Synologies.
Oh, I see.
The breed of people that do that.
Oh, yes. And you have to say it correctly. Motherboard. Say it correctly.
Oh, yes. It's a motherboard.
Motherboard.
Motherboard. Because I'm from New York. Sorry. I forgot my accent for a second there.
Excuse me, sir. Are you speaking of a motherboard?
Motherboard.
Motherboard.
Ah.
Should we take off Game Corner, Ryan?
It was just because we do it every time. It was one of those things that, like,
I think we're gonna have a long episode already.
I know we're gonna have a long episode. Yeah, let's cut it.
Okay.
Let's cut it.
Let's do the drink, I think.
Let's do the drink. We have 4 of these. We need to get rid of them.
Okay, so on that note, I asked you in messages if you'd had the Seijuishi Spicy Ginger Ale or the Fanta Premium Peach.
Yeah.
I got you both bottles of those.
Thank you.
As a thank you for having me on. So I'll bring them to school on Tuesday. I don't care when you do them. If you've got a lineup of drinks, that's fine. But I thought, I was in Seijuishi. I thought, I'll just get these and I can put them on the show or not. It doesn't matter. I won't be offended if you don't drink them on the show.
I think, Nate, you have one.
I have one more. Mm-hmm.
You have one more, and then we didn't have any prepared for the ones after that. So we will probably take you up on those offers then.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, actually, the peach looks intriguing to me. I saw it again at the store today. I almost bought, there was a Mitsuya Cider fruit punch that had only 1% fruit juice in it. So I thought, how can you do fruit punch with only 1? And then my wife reminded me, Kool-Aid does fruit punch with no fruit juice in it. What are you talking about? I said, oh yeah, good point. Anyway.
Yeah, I can't read the label at all.
You silly.
Well, I mean, if you take a look over at the FaceTime call, I just turned on my camera.
Ryan's apartment at night. It's just a black square.
There, I can zoom in here.
Oh, there you are. Are you holding your phone up?
That's my eyes.
Glasses?
My glasses are reflecting the blue circle that represents one of the 2 of you.
This is the first group FaceTime call I've ever had.
Well, don't worry. You'll have another one in a little bit of time when we do a game show.
The game show.
Oh, cool. Great.
So Pepsi Cinnamon. Sorry.
All right. Yes, Pepsi Cinnamon. Let's talk about this.
I hear some voices in the background.
I was bumping my chair.
No.
I'm not hearing voices.
Oh, maybe it's inside my head. Never mind.
That's going at the end.
Yep, that's definitely staying in.
No, seriously.
I hear a car
There's a man
next to me.
speaking. It's really, really low.
Do you have something playing on another?
It's gone now.
Tab. Is it CGP Grey talking about his themes?
It might be. Oh, maybe it's, wait a minute, am I running that somewhere? Maybe
How many tabs do you have open?
maybe I turned that video on by accident again. No, because I'm on the store page. That's weird. Did we lose Ryan? Ryan.
I'm right here.
I can hear him. Can you?
No, I can't hear him.
You can't hear
Maybe
me.
that's what it is.
Oh, he can't hear you.
Huh. That's interesting.
Still can't hear him, Scott?
Test, test. Check, check.
I can't hear Ryan.
Hello.
I can hear him.
And now the time is near
You're missing all the good singing.
where you can face the final curtain.
Should we reestablish the FaceTime connection?
Click out, Scott. Leave the FaceTime, and then you should be able to join right back in again.
All right. I'll come back.
There we go. I can see you, Scott. Good.
Look at this stuff.
Oh,
Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you
no.
think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm a girl who has...
Nope. Didn't think that.
definitely not. You're far too hairy.
that is a true statement there. Yep.
So you're back. So that was you. I wasn't hearing things. I mean, I wasn't hearing things, but I wasn't hearing things.
You weren't hearing things, and that was the problem.
Yes, I wasn't hearing things in my head. I wonder what happened. Anyway,
I don't know.
have you ever been down to the Kit Kat Chocolatory in the Cebu in Ikebukuro?
No, I have not.
Don't expect much. It used to be bigger. It used to be a section in the store. Then it became a corner, and now it's just a counter. I mean, I was expecting, 36 flavors to choose from. They have maybe 5. But there are flavors that some of which you can't get elsewhere.
See, I always find that if you want the really weird flavors, go to Donkey.
Oh, yeah.
Donkey
yeah.
Hunting?
Yep.
Yeah. And they've always got like a real good assortment as well. When I go there before I go back to the States, because I always bring Kit Kats.
Yeah, and they always have the wide selection.
Yeah. That's good.
The summary of...
Oh, wait, do you have to give your disclaimer? Like, go watch it?
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Oh, mea culpa. Take that out.
So, as always...
What finished?
Ted Lasso. You have to watch Ted Lasso.
Oh, gosh, never even heard of it.
It's an Apple TV Plus show.
Oh.
It's really good. Really good. And plus, Star Trek Discovery is happening right now, Scott. Speaking of the Trill, have you been watching that one?
No.
Star Trek Discovery Season 3. We're 5 episodes in already. It's very good.
Are we 5 in already? Okay, all right. I remember hearing, it's starting this Friday or whatever. And then I just got so busy. I'm a musician. We're coming up to Christmas. And even though we're not having a concert, I'm still stinking busy. So.
Although Ryan said he canceled his Netflix subscription. Huh, Ryan?
I did.
Oh, why?
You're going to have to do it later. You'll have to catch up later.
I'll have to catch up later. I canceled my Netflix because I have other subscriptions, and I just said, I'm not watching Netflix. And I apparently canceled it all at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's fine. If you're watching other things, what are you going to do? You're paying for something you're not watching. Something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
Yeah, but you'll have to catch up. It's been pretty good.
All right, I'll wait till...
Yeah, wait till it all comes out. And then binge it for a month and then cancel again.
Exactly. You know how I watch things. I don't...
Sounds good to me.
Can't you... What is their free deal? Is it a week or a month?
I don't know if you can do that if you've already been a member.
Netflix does free months usually, but you can only do it like once per account, right?
I guess you could technically get a new account, but you lose all your My List and things.
Yeah.
I don't use that much anyway, but yeah, I mean a little bit. Oh, this looks like a good show. I used to use all that. Well, you should see my IMDb playlist. It's like almost 300 movies in there.
Of stuff you have to watch?
Yeah, no, stuff that I think was interesting and I might want to watch it, but I hardly ever get to it.
What are you talking about? Don't you keep that in OmniFocus? I have an OmniFocus project for that.
Oh, no, I never thought about that. No, because, well, IMDb's they've got a watch list. I just started using it. I suppose I could download it and pull it into OmniFocus. That'd be all right.
Yeah, because I kept changing services. That's why I put it in OmniFocus.
You know what? That kind of makes sense. Yeah.
You could always just make a FileMaker database.
Don't tempt me.
As if you need any tempting. You should have seen eyes pop out when I told him that FileMaker was running the bells at school now. He's like, really?
Hey, it works.
I know.
Although I will say there was one point where I was listening to the bells and going, it's the end of the day. I was expecting it to be the end of the day song.
Well, we're recording Auld Lang Syne. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, we're gonna do that one.
No, the one that I was talking about, the one where it's like the city plays over the speakers.
Oh, that one, yes. I wonder if I could get the music for that.
I don't think we can do that. That'll confuse the neighbors too much to get too upset. Because the bells go in the field, so.
Oh, good point.
Oh, that's true. But it'd be kind of funny to have the city play it at 4:20, and the school plays it at 4:25, and then again at 4:30.
That's true. If the city has already played it, I think we could play it. I think if we play it at a different time than the city plays it.
All the kids would run home and their moms would be like, what are you doing here?
I think you should record it just to have fun with it later.
There's so many songs that I was thinking about. Oh, it would be great if we had this one. Oh, it'd be great if we had this one.
Send them to me. Send them to me, seriously.